All right, ready to dive into something I think we all deal with? It's comparison. That feeling of, they're doing better than me. It's tough to escape, especially now we're all so connected.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's something everyone struggles with at some point.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we're using an excerpt from How to Stop Comparing Yourself to Others to really break it down. Like, why do we even compare in the first place? What does it cost us? And most importantly, how do we break free?
Yeah, I think it's more than just wanting what others have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So starting with the why, the excerpt mentions this evolutionary instinct thing.
Right. Makes sense if you think about it. Back in the day, way back, you had to size up your neighbor to survive,
Totally. It's like, who's stronger? Who has more resources?
Exactly. Social comparison theory says our ancestors, they used comparison for survival, figure out where they stood in the group. Crucial when your next meal depended on it.
It's kind of funny, right? Back then it was about who had the best hunting skills, and now we obsess over who has the best job. But instead of saber-toothed tigers, we're worried about Instagram likes.
Haha, you're not wrong. It's like our brains haven't fully caught up. We're still wired to assess our standing, but now it's more about status, achievements, even who has the newest phone.
And it feels like, everything just makes it worse now. Grades in school, promotions at work, it's all this constant ranking.
Oh, for sure. And then you add in social media on top of it all.
Oof, don't even get me started. The excerpt calls it a comparison accelerator.
Yeah, understatement of the century. Think about it. It's designed to highlight the best, right? We curate our online presence. You wouldn't post about having a terrible day, would you?
No way. Only the good stuff, haha.
Right. But then we forget everyone else is doing the same thing, and we end up comparing our reality to these highlight reels.
No wonder that study found people who compare themselves a lot on social media have way higher anxiety. It's like we're bombarded with these perfect lives that aren't even real.
Right, and it all feeds into this other big driver of comparison, insecurity. When we don't feel good about ourselves, we look outward for validation.
So it's not just keeping up with the Joneses, it's more like trying to fill a void.
I think so. Trying to find a sense of belonging, measure up. Which is why it's so important to understand the real cost of this habit. It's not just harmless envy, it can have a real impact.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of brushing it off like, oh, everyone does it. But this excerpt, it really lays out the downside.
This isn't just feeling a little jealous. Studies have linked excessive comparison to anxiety, depression, low self-esteem. It can really affect your mental health.
And I think there are less obvious costs too, right?
Okay.
Resentment toward people you actually like. Or missing out on your own joys because you're so focused on what others have. Or even holding yourself back because you're measuring yourself against the wrong things.
It's like a slow leak in a tire, You might not notice at first, but eventually it'll leave you stranded.
Totally. So understanding the why and the cost, it sets the stage for, well, what do we do about it?
Right. And the good news is, this excerpt doesn't just diagnose the problem, it actually offers solutions.
And honestly, I'm already feeling hopeful just thinking about these steps. It really feels like a toolkit to actually break free.
Yeah, I think there's some really valuable stuff in here.
Absolutely. So step one, and this seems like the foundation, is self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You can't fix what you don't acknowledge, right?
Makes sense.
So the excerpt really emphasizes recognizing when and why we compare.
Finding the source of the leak before you can fix it.
Exactly. So first, identify those triggers. What situations, what people send you down that comparison rabbit hole?
Is it Instagram? Hearing about a friend's promotion?
Yeah.
Or maybe, I don't know, going to a fancy event.
Yeah, figure out what sets off those alarms for you.
And then there's this great exercise they suggest, thought tracking. For a week, write down every time you compare yourself.
Oh, wow, every time.
Yeah. Who are you comparing to? What are you focusing on? And how does it make you feel?
I think just doing that would make me rethink my social media habits.
For sure. It's not just noticing the comparison, it's understanding the emotions behind it. Are you feeling insecure, envious, inadequate? It helps you see what need that comparison is trying to fill.
Oh, that's interesting. So are we then moving from looking outward to looking inward?
Exactly.
Which brings us to step 2, reframing our perspective. We've identified our triggers, we're understanding the patterns, but now how do we actually shift how we view ourselves and others?
Right, how do we reframe this whole comparison game? Well, the first thing, and this is huge, especially now, is to remember the highlight reel. What you see online on social media, it's often just a carefully crafted presentation, not someone's everyday reality.
It's like comparing your bloopers reel to their finished movie.
Exactly.
They have struggles, they have insecurities, they have bad days, just like everyone else.
It's so easy to forget that when we're like bombarded with these perfect images.
Totally.
Yeah.
So then how do we actually reframe it?
Well, another powerful technique is to shift from competition to inspiration. So instead of feeling diminished by someone else's success, try asking, what can I learn from this? What contributed to their achievements? You're basically turning comparison into a learning opportunity.
Ooh, I like that. Instead of feeling threatened, you're finding takeaways that help you grow.
Right.
Reminds me of that saying, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
Oh, I like that. Everyone is on their own timeline.
Exactly. And embracing that individuality, that's key, right? Because comparing yourself to someone else, it's like comparing a fish to a bird. It's pointless because you're fundamentally different.
Right. Celebrating those differences, not trying to conform, I think that's where freedom lies.
I love that. Okay, so we've tackled self-awareness and reframing. But I think there's this like huge external factor that makes this whole embracing individuality thing a lot harder. Social media. How do we navigate that without completely unplugging?
That's step 3. Limiting social media exposure. And you don't have to go cold turkey. It's more about setting boundaries that work for you.
Okay, so like, where do we start?
Well, start by being mindful of what you're feeding your mind. Look at the accounts you follow. Do they inspire you? Do they align with your values? Or do they trigger this sense of inadequacy and a need to keep up?
Yeah, it's like spring cleaning for your social media.
Exactly. Unfollow accounts that make you feel worse. You have control over what you let into your mental space.
That's making me think about all those perfectly curated travel blogs I follow.
We all have them.
Maybe it's time for an unfollowing spree.
Maybe. And, consider setting time limits. Use those built-in app features, or you can download a separate app to kind of cap your daily usage. Even just having that limit can make a difference in how much mental energy you're dedicating to those platforms.
That's a good idea. And I know some people swear by a weekend detox.
Yeah.
Like completely unplugging for a couple days.
Oh, yeah. It's a great way to reset and reconnect with yourself.
I always feel so much lighter and more present after a social media break. It's like clearing out the mental clutter and making space for my own thoughts and ideas. But breaking free from comparison, it's not just about what we stop doing. It's also about shifting our focus inward.
Which leads us perfectly to step 4, focusing on your own progress, not on where you stand in comparison to others, but on your own journey.
Because, as they say, comparison is the thief of joy.
It really is. When we're constantly looking over our shoulder, we miss out on the beauty of our own path.
So how do we start focusing on our own progress?
The first part of this step is setting personal goals. And I want to emphasize, these aren't goals based on what society says is successful or what other people are achieving. These are goals that genuinely resonate with you.
Right, what brings you a sense of purpose and fulfillment. It might be your career, your hobbies, relationships, personal growth,
Yeah, the key is it aligns with your values, not some external definition of success.
Love that. So then once you have those goals, how do you stay focused?
Well, breaking those goals down into smaller steps is really helpful. It's much easier to stay motivated and track your progress when you have milestones to celebrate along the way.
That makes sense. It's less overwhelming. And to help with that, the excerpt recommends keeping a victory journal.
Ooh, tell me more.
Yeah, basically you log all your accomplishments, no matter how small. Finishing a project, trying a new recipe, anything that gives you that sense of accomplishment.
I love that. It's like your own personal hype list.
Exactly. And then when those comparison doubts creep in, you can look back and remind yourself, hey, I'm actually doing pretty great.
Yes. And remember, the most important comparison you can make is to who you were yesterday, not to anyone else. Are you learning, growing, evolving? Are you making progress toward your goals? That's the measure that truly matters.
Because ultimately, your journey is unique, and your definition of success should be too.
Yeah.
I think this is a great place to pause for now. We've uncovered the roots of comparison, started reframing our perspective, and even gotten some practical tools to, limit social media's impact.
We've covered a lot.
We have. In the next part, we'll dive into cultivating self-compassion, surrounding yourself with the right people, and finding that, lasting contentment in your own journey.
Sounds good.
So until then, deep divers, remember, you are on your own path, and your progress is worth celebrating no matter where anyone else is on theirs. Welcome back, deep divers. We're continuing our kind of journey to break free from the comparison trap.
Yeah.
So far, we've unpacked why we compare, what it costs us, and we've even started recognizing those triggers and reframing those tempting highlight reels we see online.
It's a process.
It is. But a good one, I think.
Absolutely.
So step 5 offers a powerful tool for shifting from those outward comparisons to that inward growth. And it's gratitude.
Gratitude, yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in, what we lack or what other people have.
Totally. It feels like gratitude is like that reset button, reminding us of the good stuff.
I like that, yeah, the reset button. And the excerpt highlights that even those small actions, they make a difference.
So it's not just about grand gestures of gratitude.
No. Even something as simple as starting a daily gratitude ritual can help.
Okay, so what does that look like?
It could be as easy as just listing 3 things you're grateful for. Just shifting your focus from what's missing to what you already have.
It could be something small, like, I don't know, a good cup of coffee, or something big like your health, the people you love.
Exactly. The point is to, savor those things. Let that feeling sink in.
Okay, I like that. And I think sometimes gratitude journals can feel a bit, forced.
I get that, yeah. There's another great exercise. Write down 5 things you're good at, proud of. It could be, your creativity, your work ethic, anything.
Ooh, that's good. Like a personal hype list.
Exactly. And when those comparison doubts creep in, you can pull out your hype list and remind yourself, hey, I'm pretty awesome.
I love that.
And, when envy does hit, immediately name something in your life you're grateful for. It interrupts that comparison spiral and brings you back to a place of appreciation.
So we're basically training our brains to focus on the good.
Yes. It's like training a muscle, The more we use gratitude, the stronger it gets.
I like that. But, gratitude alone, it's not always enough. The excerpt also talks about self-compassion, which seems closely tied.
Oh, absolutely. Comparison often stems from self-criticism. We judge ourselves harshly, and then it's easy to see everyone else is better.
It's like we've had these impossible standards for ourselves.
Right. And then wonder why everyone else seems to meet them so effortlessly.
Exactly. So how do we break that self-criticism cycle and build self-compassion? Because let's be honest, that inner critic can be tough to silence.
Tell me about it. But the excerpt has some good tips. One suggestion is to talk to yourself like you would a friend. Imagine your friend confiding in you about their struggles. You wouldn't judge them or criticize them, right?
Of course not.
You would offer support and remind them of their strengths. So why not give yourself the same treatment?
That's a good point. Sometimes we are the unkindest people to ourselves. It's like we forget we deserve that same compassion we give others.
Exactly. Another part of self-compassion is accepting imperfection. Like the excerpt emphasizes, we're not meant to be perfect. We're meant to be human, making mistakes, having flaws. It's all part of the journey.
Makes me think of that saying, progress, not perfection. We're so focused on the end goal that we forget to celebrate those messy, imperfect steps along the way.
Right. And instead of dwelling on past mistakes, try reframing them as learning experiences. Ask yourself, what did I learn? How can I grow from this? It's about curiosity, not judgment.
So instead of, I messed that up, it's, okay, what can I do differently next time?
Exactly. Much more empowering, right? And finally, forgive yourself for past failures. We often carry the weight of those, which just fuels those comparisons.
It's like we're holding ourselves hostage to our past.
Yes. Release those burdens. Forgive yourself for choices that, you made with the knowledge you had at the time. Everyone makes mistakes. It's how we learn and evolve.
It's like hitting the reset button on self-perception.
Exactly. And that growth is often supported by the people around us. Which brings us to step 7, surrounding yourself with supportive people.
Our company has a huge impact on our mindset, doesn't it?
Oh, huge. The wrong people can amplify those comparisons, while the right ones can lift us up. The excerpt puts it bluntly. Ditch the comparison crew.
What does that even mean?
It means those people who are constantly bragging or putting others down or creating a competitive vibe. Their negativity, it's contagious.
Ugh, yeah, energy vampires. I know exactly the type. It's tough when it's family or coworkers, but even minimizing exposure can help.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, prioritize those people who lift you up, celebrate your wins, share your values. The excerpt calls it finding your tribe.
It's night and day, isn't it? Those people make you feel seen, valued for who you are, not for what you've achieved or what you have.
It's about real connection.
It is.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate the power of being a cheerleader for others.
Yes. Offer genuine compliments, celebrate their success. Not only does it create a positive environment, but it also shifts your focus away from comparison.
It's like we're creating a ripple effect of positivity.
Exactly. Now, for those times when comparison does creep in, step 8 offers a valuable tool, mindfulness. The excerpt explains it brings us back to the present moment, which is crucial for breaking that spiral.
Because often comparison takes us out of the now, right? We're either dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, and we miss out on, the beauty of the present.
Exactly. And the excerpt suggests a few techniques for cultivating mindfulness.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, meditation. Even just a few minutes a day can make a difference.
I used to think meditation was only for, yogis on mountaintops or something.
I know, right? But it's really about training your mind to stay present, letting go of distractions, and just focusing on the now.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, find a quiet space, focus on your breath, and when thoughts come up, just acknowledge them and gently redirect your attention back to your breath.
Interesting. What else?
Another technique is grounding yourself using your senses. So when you're feeling overwhelmed by comparisons, take a moment to notice what you see, hear, smell, taste, and touch.
Oh, I like that. It's like a mini mindfulness break you can take anywhere.
Exactly. And finally, just observe your thoughts without judgment. So instead of getting caught up in, I'm not as successful as them, just notice the thought and let it pass.
Like watching clouds drift by.
Yes, exactly. You're not engaging, you're just observing. And that leads us to step 9, which is all about taking control of your narrative. Redefining success.
Okay, so we've come a long way. Self-awareness, reframing, gratitude, self-compassion, finding our tribe, even practicing mindfulness. So how does redefining success fit into all of this?
It's about realizing that if our definition of success is based on, external factors, like what society values, what other people achieve, what looks good online, we'll always be chasing someone else's dream, and we'll always feel like we're failing.
So it's not about the biggest house, the highest paying job, the most followers.
Right. It's about aligning your definition of success with your own values and priorities.
So for some people, it might be about meaningful relationships. For others, it might be pursuing creative passions or making a positive impact.
Exactly. The key is it comes from within, not from comparing yourself to others. The excerpt encourages asking yourself, what truly matters most to me? What kind of life do I want to build?
So get clear on those values and then define success in a way that reflects them.
Exactly. And once you have that internal compass, reject those external metrics of success, money, status, likes. They're all arbitrary, and they don't actually reflect who you are as a person.
It's about choosing your own yardstick, right?
Yes. Define success based on what truly matters to you, not on what society dictates.
I love that. It reminds me of that Oscar Wilde quote, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken.
Perfectly said. When you're living in alignment with your true self, comparison naturally fades away. You're no longer trying to fit into someone else's mold, you're creating your own path.
That sounds liberating.
Yeah.
But I imagine this whole process, it takes time and effort.
Which brings us to the final step. Being patient with yourself. Breaking free from comparison, it's not a destination, it's a journey. There will be ups and downs, moments where you slip back into old patterns.
So we shouldn't expect to wake up one day and just be completely immune to comparison.
Right. Those relapses are normal. Don't get discouraged. Instead, track your progress. Are you comparing yourself less? Are you feeling more content?
It's like those check-in points along a hiking trail. You acknowledge how far you've come, even if the summit isn't in sight yet.
I like that analogy. And celebrate the effort, not just the outcome. Acknowledge your commitment to this change, even if it's imperfect. It's about showing up for yourself day after day.
And if it feels overwhelming, remember, asking for help is a sign of strength. A therapist or a coach, they can provide support and guidance along the way.
Absolutely. So we've now covered all 10 steps in this guide.
Wow, we have. That was comprehensive.
It was.
I feel like we've gone from feeling, stuck in that comparison trap to having a whole, arsenal of tools to break free.
And just by engaging in this deep dive, you've already shown a commitment to growth, which is amazing.
That is true. So to recap, we've learned to identify our triggers, reframe our perspective, cultivate gratitude and self-compassion, surround ourselves with the right people, practice mindfulness, and even redefine success on our own terms.
It's a lot, but remember, it's a journey, not a race. Be patient, celebrate your progress, and keep practicing. You'll find yourself comparing less, appreciating more, and just embracing your unique journey with more joy and confidence.
All right, deep divers, are you ready for some inspiration?
I think so.
The excerpt shares some real-life stories of people who have successfully used these steps to, overcome the comparison trap.
These examples show how these principles actually work in, everyday life. And hopefully they'll spark some ideas for your own journey.
Okay, so first up, let's meet Sarah. She's 29, and she found herself constantly feeling inferior while scrolling through her high school friends', perfect travel photos on Instagram.
Oh, so relatable. Who hasn't been there?
Right. So what did she do?
Well, Sarah decided to tackle both the mindset and the environment. So she started a gratitude journal, and she limited her Instagram use to 20 minutes a day.
Simple, but powerful.
Yeah.
She addressed that internal trigger and the external one.
Exactly. And it worked. Within weeks, Sarah felt lighter, more content. She started focusing on her own hobbies, instead of constantly comparing her life to someone's online persona.
It's proof that small changes can make a big impact.
They really can. Okay, now let's meet Mark. He's 35, and he was struggling with, envy after a coworker got a promotion that he had also been hoping for.
Ouch, yeah, that's tough. It's easy to spiral into resentment in those situations.
It is. But instead of letting those feelings consume him, Mark decided to reframe the situation. He recognized that his coworker's success, it didn't diminish his own worth or potential.
He shifted from competition to inspiration.
Exactly. He used it as motivation to learn and grow. He, observed his coworker's work ethic, sought out professional development, and set clear goals for himself.
So he focused on his own progress, celebrating his wins and acknowledging how far he'd come.
Yes. His confidence grew and he felt, more empowered, not defeated. It's a great example of how to turn comparison into fuel for growth, not a roadblock.
We have a choice,
Yeah.
right? We can let comparison shrink us, or we can use it to stretch and grow.
I love that. And finally, there's Leela. She's 22, and she was comparing her body to, those perfect physiques of fitness influencers online.
Ugh, yeah, this is so common, especially for young people. It's that pressure to conform to these unrealistic beauty standards. It can be so damaging.
It really can. So Leela realized she needed to change her inner dialogue and her environment.
Okay, so how did she do that?
She started practicing self-compassion, reminding herself that everybody is unique and beautiful, and she unfollowed those triggering accounts that were fueling her negative self-image.
She took control of what she was consuming, both mentally and visually. It's a reminder that we do have choices.
We do, and as a result, she started appreciating her own strength, her health, and what her body could do.
I love these examples. They're so inspiring. They show that these steps really can work.
They do. Beyond individual stories, the excerpt paints a picture of the long-term rewards of breaking free from comparison.
So it's not just about feeling better temporarily. It's about creating a life that's aligned with your values and your true self.
Exactly.
Okay, so what kind of transformation can we expect on this journey?
Well, first, more peace with who you are. You'll be less critical, more accepting of your flaws, more comfortable in your own skin.
That sounds amazing.
You'll also be more likely to pursue goals that truly matter to you, not someone else's version of success.
So that feeling of purpose.
Yes. No more chasing someone else's dream. You'll also build deeper, more authentic relationships.
Because you're not coming from a place of comparison and competition.
Exactly. You'll be less envious, more present, and engaged in your interaction.
I like that.
And finally, you'll rediscover joy in the simple moments. You'll be less focused on what you lack and more appreciative of the beauty and abundance that already exists in your life.
It's like taking off those comparison-tinted glasses and seeing the world in full color again.
Exactly. You'll savor everyday moments, a delicious meal, a warm hug, a beautiful sunset, without measuring them against someone else's experience.
So it's not just about feeling better, it's about living better, connecting more deeply, and experiencing more joy.
Absolutely. And while the journey might not be easy, the rewards are definitely worth it.
So as we wrap up this part, what's the key takeaway from everything we've covered?
Comparison. It steals our joy, our confidence, and our ability to, really embrace our own journeys. But the good news is we have the power to break free and create a life that's more authentic, fulfilling, and joyful.
And we don't have to do it alone. This deep dive has given us a toolkit of practical strategies.
We've seen these steps work in real life, and we've been inspired by the vision of a life where comparison no longer holds us back.
So before we move on to the final part, we want to leave you with something to ponder.
Mm-hmm.
What's one small step you can take today to compare yourself less and embrace your own unique journey? It could be anything, right? Maybe you start that gratitude journal, Or finally, unfollow those accounts that always make you feel like less than.
Yeah, those are great ones.
Maybe it's setting a personal goal that really excites you, or just, taking 5 minutes to just breathe and be present.
Right, it doesn't have to be some huge thing.
Exactly. Those small steps, they really add up over time. It's not about overnight transformation. It's about those consistent choices that, lead to a more fulfilling and authentic life.
Yeah.
It's about being clean to yourself along the way.
I think that's so important, that kindness piece.
It is. Celebrating the progress, embracing those imperfections, and just remembering that we're worthy of love and acceptance exactly as we are. No comparison needed.
I love that. No comparison needed.
Right.
It's so true. And I think it's important to remember that it's a natural human tendency to compare, but it doesn't have to define us.
Yeah. We have a choice.
We do.
Right.
We can choose a different path, one that leads to, self-discovery, growth, and genuine connection.
So deep divers, go out there and embrace your own unique journey. The world needs your authentic self.
It really does. And we'll be here to cheer you on every step of the way. Until next time, keep diving deep.